And we're live. All right. Let's get going. Good afternoon, everyone. It's Friday, July 16th, 2021. Today, we're talking about Apple's new MagSafe battery pack and a slate of new iPhone and iMac rumors because this is the iMore show. Joining me, as always, is iMore contributor Karen Freeman. Hey, Karen.
Hello.
And joining us today as our special guest is iMore writer Christine Romero-Chan. Hey, Christine.
Hey.
All right. So it's July. We've talked about this a lot. It's July. It's sort of the quiet months in between the first betas being released and the actual and the beta or the actual software coming out and the phones coming out and all that. So it's sort of quiet, but we actually have some real solid non-rumor news to talk about this week, and it's about a battery pack. But that's because it finally happened. Apple released, finally. This is a big capital whole word finally.
Yeah,
it's a capital finally.
Why Apple couldn't release it at the same time as the phones, I don't know, but
yeah, I want to say I think with this release, my personal sentiment matches that of Dieter Bohn from The Verge, where now that Apple has released this this battery pack, you have no excuse to not go out and buy an iPhone 12 mini. No one has any excuse.
Right. Yeah, I saw a couple of people saying that on Twitter.
Yeah, they finally have the appropriate battery for the iPhone 12 mini, and it's right there.
So let me ask you this. I know you guys don't have them yet. Christine, you ordered one, right?
Yeah, I ordered it. It's coming on the 19th, I think.
Okay. So like, what are the dimensions? Do you know offhand? Like, how does it compare? I know you have the Mophie one. How does it compare to the Mophie one? Because I feel like the Mophie one's pretty big.
Yeah. Is that the Mophie one that you have?
Yeah, it's the same one you have.
Yeah.
The one that you reviewed on the site. I think it's pretty. I feel like the Mophie one's pretty thick and it's pretty big. I mean, it barely fits on the Mini. I have to kind of jigger it into place.
Does it go all the way up to the camera bump on the Mini?
Let me show you. So it actually, when you put it on, it actually hangs it hangs below the bottom of the phone.
Oh my! And
it covers the camera a little bit, so it's not really ideal for that. I mean, it works, it does its job. So I mean, if you're traveling, whatever, and you just stick it in your bag, it's fine. But like it's not really, you can't really use the phone with it stuck on there.
Karen, do you have the Anchor one?
No, this is the only one I have. Is the Anchor one smaller?
Yeah, the Anchor one. It's can you see it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely shorter, I can see. Oh yeah.
Oh, that's much nicer.
But you can see it's thicker than the phone too.
Yeah.
So I'm curious if the Apple one if it's this thick and just this big in general.
So the impression I get, Karen, have you had any hands-on time with the like the MagSafe wallet?
Again, not the Apple branded one. I have another. I don't have it handy, but I do have another one.
But you know you understand the basics of on
yes.
Apple's imagery on its site, how it looks on each of the phones. Like it basically covers the whole bottom half of the Mini.
Yeah.
I think the battery pack, and Christine, I'll be anxious to get your impression of it when you get your hands on it. I think the battery pack is the same footprint size for that. It covers the same amount of real estate.
Right. So I expect it would be substantially smaller. But also I'm curious about the thickness. It's hard to tell from the pictures.
Yeah. I think I feel like this is going to be one of those things that's either much bigger or much smaller than you think of looking at pictures, and it's not really going to fall in between. Okay. So Christine, you ordered one like immediately?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you actually you've done a couple of these already, reviews on a couple of these types of products already. So I'm really curious. I'll be really curious to see your review on that next week, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you could even do like a versus post where you compare all the
A
different
versus.
versus. Yeah.
I do like the fact that it has that. Well, it unlocks the reverse wireless charging capability on the iPhone 12.
That's so weird to me. So, for those of you that don't know, you can charge the MagSafe battery pack in 2 different ways. It comes with a lightning port, so you can just plug it in and just charge it. In fact, Apple recommends before you use it at all, charge it all the way up to 100% through the lightning port. However, if you plug in your if you just have it attached to your iPhone and you plug your iPhone into wired power, the iPhone, like your obviously iPhone 12 series and up, when new phones eventually get here, will charge the battery pack itself. The iPhone reverse wireless charging, Christine, it's here.
Yeah, that's cool. So does that mean that you can use the iPhone as a charger for something else? Like, can you use it
one thing,
like
one
for
thing,
another?
but
So that's the only thing that you can use it with is the battery.
seems
You
like
can't
So
use
far,
Okay.
but
Interesting.
yeah,
Not that I'm giving away one precious percentage point of juice on my iPhone mini, but just to know that I could.
I would not dare. Yeah, that's very intriguing, the way you phrase that, Karen. Because it could point to a fact, even if it's not the sort of reverse wireless charging that people have been talking about since, last, like 2019 with the iPhone 11, which we thought may have gotten reverse wireless charging previously, but it didn't. Even if you just have your iPhone plugged in, like say you're on a trip, you only need to bring one charger and it's for your iPhone, and then you can flip it around and say put your AirPods on the back and charge them while the iPhone is charging through a wired connection.
And your Apple Watch. I mean,
and your Apple Watch.
It would be nice to be able to do all that.
Yeah, to have I think it would require the Apple Watch to have a more standard
right. That's true, because you can't use a regular Qi charger.
We say that, but the Apple Watch is rumored to be getting a redesign this year. What if they take the opportunity to integrate, if not a fully redesigned wireless charging setup where it no longer works with older chargers, because that would be a disaster. At least a more compatible, maybe a more compatible charger. So if you did have like a wireless charging mat, you could just lay your watch down on it, or you could use an Apple Watch charger.
Add Qi charging capability, not take away the current.
That
charging.
Would just, oh my God, that is, at least to me, that would be on par with the switch from the 30-pin connector to Lightning, where it's just, the chaos. But the articles we could write. All new Apple Watch chargers.
Yeah, that was a big one. I mean, that was an obvious improvement, though, going from that big 30-pin to going to Lightning. I mean, it was a lot of upheaval and a lot of complaining, but it was an improvement. The headphone jack, that one's still questionable. I think a lot of people would still prefer to have a headphone jack on their iPhone.
Yeah, I know that a lot of people actually definitely would. I think, that these days they have a lot of those like smartphone-sized dedicated audio players. Like Sony makes a lot of them, like Walkmans and things like that. And they're sort of high-res audio. I think Apple could make a play in that space now that it's got like lossless audio on Apple Music, by adding the headphone jack just to the Max phone. This is the thing. We come up with these dangerous ideas, and then Apple run with them, and we'll get blamed.
Going back to their battery pack, like I've heard people saying they wish it wasn't a battery pack, but a smart battery case again.
Oh. And
I'm like, that won't work because the new iPhone's coming out in a few months. What's the point? I upgrade every year. I'm not going to want another $100 battery case just to not have it be compatible with the next iPhone.
Yeah, I agree with you, Christine. I would much prefer a battery pack over a battery case, because you can use any case with it. Yeah. I mean, as long as it's a MagSafe case. So
here's my question for you, Christine. What kind of case do you run with on your phone? Like, what do you usually have? I assume you use a case at least some of the time.
I use a case like all the time, because after I dropped my first iPhone, I don't want that. I don't want to repeat that.
Yeah. So what do you usually
We've all
use?
done that.
Do you get a third-party case or an Apple
Right
official
now, I'm
case?
using this Kate Spade. It's
Nice.
a MagSafe.
Nice.
So
They didn't make those in the mini.
Oh, they didn't?
size. I would have been all over that.
Oh yeah.
But I change cases like all the time.
So one of the things that I always do with a new phone, assuming it's a different size, which over the last few years I've gotten all sorts of different sizes of phone, I will get like Apple's leather case, which are always pretty good. Those are solid cases. I essentially ripped one to shreds last year. I fell when I was out walking.
Oh my
I tripped over
gosh.
something but the case held up and the phone was fine.
Nice.
But it added a bit of character to one corner of the case. But the thing with the battery cases, the smart battery cases, it's that they're only in silicone. They're only the silicone
silicone
cases.
doesn't hold up for that long. Not
Right.
years, plural, certainly.
And I don't know if so. I'm speaking. This is pocket privilege. This is pocket privilege talking. Because generally speaking,
What's pocket privilege? I never heard that.
I have actual pockets.
Oh,
And
actual
women
pockets,
tend not
okay.
to.
I didn't
And
know if that
women
was
tend
like
not
a
to.
euphemism for something. Yeah. No, I don't buy clothes without pockets anymore. Like even my exercise wear must have a pocket.
Actual pockets.
Plural. Yes.
Well, one of the things I
slide
find,
pockets at least.
I bring up pockets to say one of the things I find with the silicone cases is that it like they kind of stick to the pocket a little more. For some reason.
I tried the Apple silicone case
Mhm.
I think maybe 2 years ago, and I discovered after I put it in my pocket and I pulled it out, there was like all this lint, and I'm like, I hate this case.
Yeah.
The case-
and the white ones sometimes can stain blue from people's
Oh my God,
jeans.
I think the last white case I had, which was the white smart battery case, actually like yellowed a bit.
Ew.
Yeah, like like a newspaper sitting out in the sun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not. I don't love it.
That's not a nice yellow.
No, it's not. It's not this yellow.
It's not the nice yellow of your room or the iMore intentional yellow. It's like an unintentional, like a pea yellow.
Oh my God, but yeah, Christine, I think you're exactly right. You can use it with any case. It like a battery case. No.
Yeah.
Give me extra battery. There are people that like to walk around caseless for some reason. Who can say why? And they can just slap a battery onto it. Just being able to use the MagSafe charging with this without having to, put a whole case on it if you don't want to. Yeah.
I think Apple definitely went the right way with this. I just wish they would have come out with it a lot sooner.
Yeah. Because now you have a giant battery, magnetic battery that's basically bigger than your phone.
Right. It is. If you add up all the dimensions, I think overall it is a little bigger and heavier.
Yeah. So, Karen, are you getting this? Are you getting a MagSafe battery pack?
I am waiting to see. I'm going to read Christine's review.
There we go. That's right. That's right. I also immediately ordered one. Of course I did.
Of course you did.
I am looking forward to this. And it's interesting. So what we had, one of the things that happened this week was the release candidate for iOS 14.7 came out, and with it came support for the battery pack. And what I found interesting about that is that the battery pack is going to show up in the battery widget now on iOS.
Yeah.
It's its own.
Wow.
It's got its own separate little glyph. And it just shows you its battery level, and then obviously you can see your own.
So, can it work? Can it charge without 14.7 or?
That is a good question. I would imagine so. I think, certainly if you're on the iOS 15 beta, especially the most recent beta, which came out after iOS 14.7 and after the battery pack was announced, I would imagine that certainly works with it. I would imagine that 14.7 is just needed for the glyph and the readout, the data readout stuff.
Okay.
Maybe even maybe it's needed for the reverse charging from the phone.
Yeah.
That would make sense to me.
But it would probably still charge your phone. You just can't read the battery level, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was this week.
I wish it came in other colors than white though.
Apple. We're begging. Pink, blue, product red, black,
purple.
Just even in black. Just one other color. Other color. That doesn't seem to like it's asking too much. Man. But yeah, there's some peculiarities with this battery. Well, what people are saying are peculiarities. Like it seems like it has a fairly let's say modest capacity.
It was like 1460 mAh, I think.
Yeah, milliamp hours.
Yeah.
For everybody at home, that's
1460. So 1,460.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's pretty low. Like the Mophie one is 5,000.
Yeah, the Anchor one is 5,000 too.
Yeah, but I'm not surprised by that simply because
smaller.
It's smaller, it's more compact, and I think the smart battery cases followed a similar pattern. I think they probably had more battery simply because they just had more mass and they had more. Because they were extended on the bottom versus what this smart battery case or this smart battery pack, the MagSafe battery pack allows. So that because they plugged in via a lightning connector, so they had to have the circuitry for that, and then so the battery could be a bit bigger. I think it was a little thicker. They didn't have to fit it on a mini phone. Because there's not this has to fit on all four phones, all three sizes. So they didn't have to worry about that with it. So they could just have one battery that has more capacity. And so I do kind of get that from and thus they could have different size of battery per phone. But I do kind of get that sentiment, but at the same time, it's one. Like if I'm going to go with a mini this fall, I can use this same battery pack with that, so I don't have to get a smaller battery.
So you are going to go for the mini, huh?
I am going to go for the mini. Because I love it. I have never in using the mini, I have never encountered an instance where I say this is too small, except for video, which I don't.
Did you switch to the mini as your primary?
Yes and no. Like I've got it, but I also have my 12 Pro. It's moving the data. Especially since we're so close now to September. And now that we're on betas.
Yeah, but before you buy yourself the mini, you might want to try switching over 100% to the mini.
Mm-hmm.
The 12 mini just to see if you can really do it.
Yeah. No, I'm pretty confident.
Okay.
Yeah. There's one more. This is actually a peculiarity with the battery pack. Christine, is it true that it only charges your phone to 90%?
Yeah, it was on the Apple support page. It'll charge up to 90%, and it will basically stop there. But unless you turn on low power mode, and then it'll go past 90%.
Why is that? Did it explain why?
Don't know.
It probably has to do with that capacity. I wouldn't be surprised anyway. I also don't think it doesn't charge at 15 watts just on its own, right?
I don't think so, which was something I'm a little disappointed at.
One of the things that is noted in our news story on the topic, it will deliver 15 watts of wireless charging if you're just sort of using it as a MagSafe charger, which you can do. So while you have the battery plugged into a lightning cable, you can just use it as a MagSafe charger, and it'll charge the full 15%. So it is capable of that. But I do think
you need a 20-watt power adapter.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And it doesn't come with any of that stuff.
No, it doesn't.
Not
No
even a
power
cable.
adapter, no cable.
So yeah, I think Apple's line of thought on this is that this is for an iPhone. If you have an iPhone, you got a cable in the box.
Yeah.
That you don't need to use that cable on both the iPhone and the battery pack at the same time.
Right.
I think is Apple's reasoning there, which is fair enough. Less stuff I got to store somewhere and throw out, and it's just the battery.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of battery, there was this fun little story from earlier in the week that I just wanted to touch on a little bit. So our friends over at Tom's Guide, another wonderful future website, they put out their breakthrough awards early this week, and or late. It was late last week, I believe, actually. And their their top innovation award, what their breakthrough award specifically was for the Apple M1 chip. They had a little interview with Tim Millett, who's Apple's, I want to get this right, vice president of platform architecture. And there are some fun little tidbits about building this chip and putting in the first Macs to get it. But one of my funniest little things that they ran into is the battery life was so good, the battery life numbers were so good that the marketing department thought that it was a bug.
Yeah, they thought the battery indicator was broken.
Yeah, it's like this can't.
Pretty funny.
This can't be right. This has got to be fake, right? And so yeah, I thought that was really funny.
It's a cute story.
Yeah. So I would say go check out Tom's Guide and its Breakthrough Awards if you haven't already. It's a fun little interview that just touches on just what's really truly seems to be an excellent and versatile chip. Speaking of the M1, I also want to shout out our friend and frequent guest, Luke Filipovich, who just published his M1 iMac review today on iMore. I know we're a little behind the times on that one, but we finally got it there. So I would encourage everyone listening to go check out his review of the M1 iMac. It's some pretty great work, if I do say so myself.
And here I am, still without an M1 Mac.
Same. I don't think any of us have an M1 Mac.
No.
It's the one sort of little quirk of my current Apple device ownership. I have an M1 iPad. I have one of those. No M1 Mac. I do think.
Last week when I was working on my older MacBook Air because my iMac was getting repairs, I was so frustrated. I'm like, I should just trade this in and get an M1 MacBook Air.
But then Christine, one of the things you were frustrated about, correct me if I'm wrong, was the screen size.
Yeah, but it was also like really slow at loading everything, and I'm like, this is pain.
It's you have what, a 2018 MacBook Air?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's not that long ago, and yet here we are. It's a slow. It's
compared to my iMac, it was like slow and sluggish, and I'm like, how did I work on this?
How did this work? How is it even possible that I got things done here? I've had devices like that. I have an old MacBook like that. That was it was the last of the iMacs or MacBooks that had the PowerBook G4 look before they switched to the aluminum unibody, and I'm still amazed that I got hired with that computer, and that's a miracle. Spinning hard drives, 2, and then a user installed 4 gigabytes of RAM. Oh,
wow.
Man. Yeah. Remember when 1 gigabyte of RAM was a big deal?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. But speaking of M1 Macs, there's a big, now we get into the rumors portion of the show. There is, and we've heard rumblings of this before. There's apparently a larger iMac in the works, powered by Apple Silicon, which, of course, it would be. But yes, please, let's. I've been waiting for this computer because don't get me wrong, the new iMac is beautiful, but this, let's call it iMac Pro, even though Apple retired that name supposedly. It's supposed to be bigger than the current 24-inch iMac. We've heard rumors of 30 to 32 inches, which yes, let's do that. Let's just go big. Get me a 50-inch iMac.
Jeez.
I want giant computers everywhere. 50-inch iPad, 50-inch iMac, 27-inch iPad. I want Apple to make a ridiculous amount of glass, all easily shatterable.
50 is a bit much, but I do think that 30 or 32.
Yeah, 32. I think 32 feels like a good number. I feel like there are a lot of monitors that are coming in around 32 inches these days, like higher end monitors, and that feels like something Apple could do. Isn't the Pro Display XDR a 32-inch monitor? I feel like it is. But yeah, speaking of monitors, Apple, maybe alongside this iMac, you could do a standalone monitor, so I don't have to.
Yeah, the XDR is 32 inches.
There we go. Apple already makes a 32-inch monitor. They can use at least, if not the same panel, a similar panel. But they've been moving that XDR technology into other devices, like the iPad Pro. I think they have at least some version. I don't know that it's mini LED in the new iMac, but it's like it. They've learned from the Pro Display XDR for that display. But yeah, sometime this year, I think, is the thought for this thing. M2X. That seems soon. So this is this comes from a report from Mark Gurman in the Power On newsletter from Bloomberg. And he believes that this particular Mac may run, it could possibly run on an M2X, which is interesting because the M2 doesn't even exist yet. The M1X is still theoretical. I'm of the mind that his first supposition that this will be an M1X machine is right. We've talked about this before, a beefier version of the M1.
Because it depends when they announce it. If it's going to be this year, it seems like maybe it's more likely that it's the M1X. Whereas if it's next year, maybe it'll be the M2X.
And it's interesting. I think it came out today. There was an accidental listing by, I think it was Apple Germany, for an M1 powered MacBook Pro. Let's see if I can find that story. Yeah, an M1 powered MacBook Pro, which points to, at least to me, to a more imminent release for that. Which finally, I'm waiting for those. Christine, you have a fairly new iMac, right? Your iMac.
Yeah, I have the 27-inch from last year.
Okay, so you're not gonna be replacing that for a while.
No.
Karen, are you on the lookout for a replacement for your MacBook?
Not yet. My 2018 still works fine. I would dearly love to replace it, but I can't really justify it at this point.
Yeah. Let's see.
It still works.
I might want a new MacBook. But
get that M1 MacBook Air. Or
yeah.
wait for the M2. Wait for early next year for the M2 MacBook Air.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was the rumor last week, is that M2 is coming in early 2022. But yeah, apparently on this is sort of a late breaking story from earlier today. An M1 16-inch MacBook Pro was apparently supposedly mistakenly listed by Apple Germany, and it just says Apple M1 chip. So okay, that it's all very strange. And we had the incident back at WWDC where the YouTube video has M1 MacBook Pro or M1X MacBook Pro in the tags.
Mm-hmm.
Smoke, fire. Soon, because I think we had that rumor last week that Apple's just the September event's going to be wild, and it's going to be iPhone and Apple Watch and possibly Mac as well. It's just going to be one event. Who's looking forward to covering that? So, Christine, are you excited about the prospect of a more powerful iMac, even if you're not looking to update this year? An M1X 32 inch iMac. Would you switch from 27 to 32, or would you go down to 24 if you were getting a new iMac today? Like, assuming they had the
I would probably go bigger.
You'd go bigger?
Yeah.
More power, bigger
I can
screen.
pass this iMac on to my kid.
There we go. Get them young.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just
for those who don't know, Christine's kid has yet to be born.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Make him an Apple fan while there's still a fetus. That's
gonna get all the latest Apple things.
Get him to read iMore early.
Of course.
There you go. Just do that thing with the headphones on your stomach, but it's the iMore show. It's just the iMore show. Yeah. Okay. I do like this comment from Craig. I want a Mac Pro Mini with 2x M1X or 2x M2X and an external Mac monitor. That is a 2x M1X or 2x 2 processors. You know what? That takes
reasonably priced, of course.
What's hilarious about that comment to me is that the Mac Pro, back the sort of cheese grater, I don't actually know if it was the Mac Pro itself or its predecessor, the Power Mac G5. But you used to be able to configure that Pro Tower computer with multiple processors. That just had a giant motherboard with multiple processors. Oh, yeah, Craig. That's right. Jade 2C. So this is a rumor that's been going around for a little while now that basically what Apple's going to be doing for the Mac Pro versus... So the idea is that like the Mac Pro and then the sort of other Pro Macs would all be running variations of the same processor, I believe. It's just that the Mac Pro would essentially be able to run what would in effect be 2 processors on one die, I think is the idea. So, and then like the iMac and MacBook Pros would have that, but just cut down to just 1 processor on a die. Just all the power from the Mac Pro, and then they just scale it down. And that's one of the more impressive things from Apple's architectures. They can scale it up more easily, like in a custom way that Intel just doesn't allow for. Yeah. New M1 iMac, or M1 or M1X iMac, bigger. I got to say, I think that'd be the computer for me. I think if Apple does announce that, I'm going to just jump on that. Even if it's not available in the fun colors like the current M1 iMac. Which it won't be. Because Apple doesn't like pros to have fun. I'm fine with more subdued colors, but also include the brighter ones.
Yeah.
Professional at the office, party at home.
Yeah.
I think that would encourage people to buy 2 of these. Maybe.
Yeah, I think Apple can only have so many SKUs.
Yeah, that's true. Karen, that's a valuable insight that working Apple retail will get you. Or working any retail will get you, yeah. I think. But yeah, working Apple retail especially.
Yeah, and having worked in the back room where you actually have to go through every single, count every single item, every single separate SKU, and it's a lot. There are already a lot of SKUs.
Yeah, we do have to remember that these items do have to take up physical space in the universe and not just
Yes.
Neurons in our mind.
Yes. And if you're out of one variation of one thing, you're going to have some angry customers.
I just think that Apple should buy like Dbrand or one of those custom skin and painting outfits, and that then just have a selector system.
Yeah, I like what they did with the Apple Watch, where you choose your case color and you choose your band, and you get the two pieces and you put them together.
There was that image that went around when the M1 iMac was first announced, where on the website, as you scroll down, it'll show you various colors of iMac, and one of the transitions was from like blue to orange or orange to blue, one of those to the other, and there's a point where you stop in the transition where it's like part blue and part orange. I want to be able to do that. Not those colors exactly. That's not my scene. But yeah, like just like blue and silver or red and black. Solid combinations.
It would be cool.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen, but it would be cool.
Stephen Perry in the comments with the mullet of iMac. Oh.
Yes.
Yeah, business in the front, party in the back.
Yeah, subdued colors in the front, the bright colors on the back.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's. I mean, no one probably brought up mullet. Well, someone brought up mullet at Apple, but no one said that to Tim Cook. That's definitely true. But if that sort of logic, like it's more professional in the front and not as distracting, and then in the back you've got these nice bold colors. That's the logic they used in setting the colors for the iMac. I now have no doubt of that. Just now, Stephen Perry, thank you for that. This is the idea that is firmly placed in my brain. Moving on, there's another. Let's see. Yeah, all new Macs. Yeah, there's another rumor going around. This is from a supposed leaker that I mean, we've been seeing a lot more of this person lately, but I don't know that they have a particular track record. This is Dylan DKT on Twitter. And Dylan on Twitter, they are expecting all future Macs will come with the new, for the foreseeable future, will come with the new 1080p camera that's in the iMac Pro. No,
yeah, I think this is a change that is due.
Yeah.
I think the year plus of everybody staying home and conducting all of their personal and work business via webcam has really pointed up the need for better quality webcams built in.
That was one of the more interesting parts of the M1 Mac introduction last year to me, is they had the webcams, or they talked about the webcams. They spent time focused on those 720p potato webcams because they talked about the image signal processing that they can now do on the M1. And, yeah, it probably is as the best you can get out of a 720p webcam in a very thin monitor lid. But it's still a 720p webcam in a very thin monitor lid. I wonder what this suggests about the design of upcoming Macs, because I would feel like they need to get thicker.
Well, there's that periscope patent that Apple just got.
Yeah.
For the periscope camera. So maybe, we've been thinking they're going to use that in the iPhone, but maybe they're going to use it in the MacBooks.
What? That is a wild theory. I love it. But yeah,
it's just a theory, but
but yeah, I tend to think, I think the new iPad Pro has a 4K camera in the front, and people talk about things like that. The iPad's camera is fine, the iPhone's camera is fine. The iPhone and iPad front-facing cameras are also in, a chassis that is thicker for them. It is a thicker. An iPhone is thicker than a MacBook lid.
Yeah.
And I think if we want, higher performance cameras for video calls and stuff built into MacBooks, I think we're looking at I think it's going to get they might get a little thinner in the body of the computer and a little thicker on the. I think I've expressed this before, but a little thicker on the monitor. So when you close them, they're about the same thickness as they've always been, but it's just distributed differently.
Yeah, because the iPhone, the 12 mini is about 3 times thicker than the lid of my MacBook Pro.
Yeah.
I sort of held them up and did an unofficial measure with my eyeballs. But yeah, it is quite a bit thinner. So that does make it harder to get a decent camera in there for sure.
Yeah, I think, again, Craig in the comments, the Snap-on or MagSafe kind of camera. Do you remember the standalone iSight camera that they used to sell?
Did Apple used to sell?
Yeah.
No, I don't remember that.
This was before my time.
I would say it's before my time, but that would.
Christine, we have like the same time. I think we're the same age.
Well, my first Apple product was the OG iPhone, so.
So okay, that's all right. Yeah, a little bit of a history lesson. So, way back when, before iMessage and before messages, Apple had iChat on Mac OS, and one of the big innovations of iChat in the early 2000s was when it. Well, I say innovations. It was kind of following the lead of other companies at that point, like Skype, but it introduced video calling. It was, easy to use, that sort of thing. However, in its laptops, there were no video cameras. You didn't have a webcam in your MacBook lid, or at that point, PowerBook lid or your iBook lid. So Apple's solution was to create a standalone web camera that you could clip to the lid of your computer, and it would be there, just sticking out there. It was this small, actually kind of, it was nice looking cylinder that had a camera in it, and I think also a microphone, and you could use it for iChat video calling.
Yeah, so that was in the early 2000s.
The early 2000s, like mid.
Yeah,
I think like mid to late 2000s, really.
I'm going to say that's before my time. Not that I wasn't old enough to use the technology, but I wasn't really using Apple products at that point.
Yeah, same.
Also, I was really knee deep in diapers at that point.
Oh yeah, no,
with all that stuff.
Yeah.
I had very little awareness of the outside world.
Yeah, Annie, iChat was the thing, and it eventually became messages. I've been using Macs long enough that I did use iChat. iChat used to be where you would chat. It would be the sort of built-in instant messenger client for things like AOL Instant Messenger. And apps like Adium came along to compete with it.
I remember Adium. I used Adium.
Yeah, that was a good app. It was a good alternative to the built-in stuff. A little duck icon. But yeah, they should do that again. Just bring it all back around. Only this one has MagSafe, and it just clacks.
Yeah,
right
I mean,
on.
obviously there are plenty of third-party cameras. I mean, I'm using one right now. That's why you can see me clearly, where you couldn't when I first started doing the podcast. There are certainly plenty of good quality standalone cameras, but the idea of a MagSafe one where it would be much more compact and it would just kind of snap into place, and wouldn't be this big bulky thing that you have to put on your MacBook like that. I like that idea.
Yeah, that's. I mean, it's certainly an idea. I what's that app? I want to say it's called Camo or something like that. That lets you connect your iPhone to your Mac and use that as the webcam. Something, it's Camo or something like that. But that's interesting. And Sony and Nikon and I think Canon have all. I think Olympus too. Have released software that let you use your like DSLR or mirrorless camera as your webcam, which that's just overkill. I think that's
a nice idea though. So the one that connects to your iPhone, can you use it with the rear camera?
I think so. I think that's actually kind of the idea. Is that you would use that as like a 4K camera.
I'm gonna have to look into that. That's a cool idea.
Yeah, I do. I think it's called Camo, and
maybe Apple will come out with something sort of Sherlock that app and take over that technology.
I'm kind of surprised they didn't, like at WWDC. They had all this sort of work from home, or we're all still at home stuff that they did this year, like the SharePlay stuff and all that.
Yeah.
And I'm a little surprised they didn't come out with like a camo Sherlocking thing.
Yeah. Maybe that's coming.
Yeah. I don't
Even
know.
if Apple isn't going to let people work from home anymore.
So ironic. It is actually really ironic. You look at all the stuff that Apple did this year around remote sharing, and then you look at and how it can be applied to like work, and then you look at their new work from home policy, which is to be fair, a work from home policy that's been adopted by a similar policy that's been adopted by a number of companies, although not by all. To say Twitter and Facebook's credit, which to give Facebook credit for everything. See what you do to me, Apple. I'm giving Facebook credit. They have allowed, I don't know if it's everyone, but they've adopted policies that allow a lot more of their employees to work remotely. And I said we weren't really going to talk about this, and here we are talking about this.
Sorry, I opened the door on that one.
No, it's fine. It's just we have an interesting perspective because iMore and our sister sites, Android Central and Windows Central, we've ever since before we were even mobile nations, when we were smartphone experts, way before we got acquired by Future, we've always been remote. People would fly out to Florida or Winnipeg or sometimes Atlanta, for a couple of times a year, maybe. But generally speaking, we've always been remote. And it's interesting to see these companies insist, no, you need to go back into the office. We need you in the office, when that has not been really our experience.
Yeah, I believe me, if we had an office, I would love to go at least a couple times a week. There's definitely something to being in the office and having the camaraderie and the water cooler and all of that. I mean, I know we have virtual ones, but it's not quite the same as being there in person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not an option for us. We don't. There are no two of us in the same city.
Yeah. Let me tell you. I think that's absolutely, that's true. That's true. There's no two of us in the same city.
Yeah.
I've never thought of it like that, but Karen, I think you're absolutely right. But yeah, there have been times where we've tried to do group activities like party games and things like that, and they've the Jackbox stuff works out fine, but yeah, it would be nice to have those events like in an office and in person.
Yeah.
It's weird. Yeah. I think one of the things this thing has taught me, one of the things this year has taught me, this last, really 18 months, is just physically being around other people is good for you.
Yeah.
Even if it's just for a little bit. I'm not someone who needs to be out amongst people forever and ever. It's not my personal favorite activity. I really am an introvert, but
Yeah.
Still, just going out and being around people now, it's different. It's different. But yeah,
I mean, when I was actually at App Advice, I actually went to, they had like offices in an office in LA. So I went there like twice a week, and it was nice just to hang around with the other people that in the company that were also based in LA. So
yeah, but one of the things that I think when it comes to Apple's work from home policy, it's weird to force it for everybody, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the one thing, having with everybody staying home that was able to, I think a lot of people feel like, well, if I was able to do this job remotely through all of the pandemic, like, why can't I continue doing it this way?
Yeah.
And it's a tough one to answer.
One of the weirder takes that I saw when this conversation was first really coming up, when Apple first announced its policy, one of the weirder takes I saw was basically like, well, then you're not a fit for Apple's culture. Employees make the culture. The executives don't make the culture. The executives can try, but it's the employees that make the culture.
Yeah.
Of a company. And I mean, try as you might, you can't change that. I mean, I won't, without naming names, there was a particular take like companies aren't democracies, which I would argue that that's a problem. But I mean, when you say we live in a democracy, most of our lives aren't they don't exist within a democracy. Democracy only matters when you vote, and usually you live under some kind of authoritarian rule in that you have a job. with a strictly hierarchical employment system. But yeah, companies actually can be sort of democratic in a way. Like, employees can quit. In fact, we've seen some employees just leave over this policy. Not a lot, but some.
Yeah, the article that we on iMore, we're talking about 10 employees out of like thousands and thousands. So it's not like a majority or anything, but there were some people that wanted to remain 100% remote, and they're being told no.
Yeah. And obviously, I think that sort of thing, it is going to adapt over time, and it's going to depend on the team. Like, does the App Store editorial team, for instance, who writes, those great stories for the App Store, do they really need to be in the office? Do they really need to all be in Cupertino? Because I think that's another one of the issues, is if Apple's going to insist that you're in the office, they're going to insist that you're in California or one of the few places around the world where they have offices.
Right. I'm sorry, go ahead.
The Bay Area is expensive. I don't know if you've heard.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say, is if you have to go into Cupertino, that means you're either living in a $1 million shack or whatever you can afford nearby, or you're commuting an hour to 2 hours. It's a tough one.
Yeah, I'd build just like a little surf shack on the beach and run out an internet cable to it.
You mean like in a shanty town?
No, just a little hermit shack on the beach.
Yeah, that little hermit shack on the beach would cost you $1 million, because the little postage stamp of land is $999,000.
Hence little hermit shack. That's because I wouldn't be able to do anything else. But it was mine, and I would have built it.
Yeah. But I mean, listen, my husband works for just a local company, and he was, during the pandemic, they decided to downsize their office space, and they say, hey, anybody want to work from home permanently? And my husband volunteered. And so now his office is right across the hall from mine.
That's great.
Yeah.
That can be pretty fun.
Yeah. And that's good for him. That works for him. And when he needs to go to the office, like today, he actually did go to the office. There was something going on that he needed to be there for, and they have like a guest office for him to use. I guess a hot desk, you would call it. Mm-hmm. But on the other end of the spectrum, my brother-in-law owns a small business, and he hates his employees working from home because he doesn't feel like they're as productive. They're not hitting their marks. I think he feels like he needs to have that one-on-one training with them in person to really, they're salespeople. So, sales is a little bit different. So, I see two different sides of the coin.
Oh, definitely. And again, it really depends on the job you fill, I don't know that any of us would need to be in an office. If that was a thing that we had been away from, an office, I don't know that any of us would feel a particular need to go back, but since we've always been remote, that's really never been our issue. But right. Things like sales, there are jobs that rely on personal interaction so deeply that doing them in person really probably is the way to go. Yeah. But again, it's like I said, it's just going to depend on where you are. I actually think that is a nice little stopping point for today. Good topic. So we're gonna end the show a little early today. I want to say, first of all, big shout out to everyone in the chat. It was a lot of very interesting, very fun discussion.
Yeah, lots of good comments today.
Lots of good comments this week. I'll say this, better than certain comments last week. Good job, everybody. We really do appreciate you guys showing up in the chat and providing all this great commentary that we can then just, jump off of. Big thanks to Christine for joining us today. It was great to have you on, Christine. Looking forward to that review next week.
Yeah.
And also thanks to everyone who's going to listen to us later in their podcatcher of choice. We do it all for the fans. Literally, we'd just be shouting into the void if it wasn't for you folks. Huge thanks to Jim Metzendorf. As always, I know you're going to make us sound so wonderful. Always such a pro. And until next time, everybody, this has been the iMore Show. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.